Good afternoon. I'm Gene Maneri with the Ella Project. I want to thank everyone for joining us for our latest music census session. This is Working with the Media. We've got I think, a really cool panel of people in different walks of the media landscape, and I think they're going to be able to give us a lot of good information about how to work with them, get your projects noticed, get the word out, and how to make their lives easier and engage all the citizens of New Orleans and parts further away to let them know about all the cool things you're doing. So this is a project that the Ella Project has been doing for the last 2 years, even though we've been doing workshops for a lot longer, in partnership with the Mayor's Office of Cultural Economy. It's a program that we've been really proud of, and Julia Heath with the Mayor's Office is on the call with us today. So I just wanted to give Julia a chance before we start to say hello, talk about some of the work they're doing over there at the Office of Nighttime Economy. And I think there's some cool things they're up to. So, Julia, come and say hello and tell us what you're up to.
Thanks, Jean. Hey, everyone. It's great to see some familiar faces. Great to see some new ones. My name's Julia. Like Jean said, I'm the Policy and Outreach Manager in the New Orleans Office of Nighttime Economy. So, yes, I work for the city, but I'm one of the cool ones, I promise. I'm fortunate enough to get to work with, incredible people in our local music industry like all of you. The Yellow Project has been a really critical partner for us as we have very little resources right now. So, we're really able to do some work that needs to be done in partnership with them, which we're just so appreciative of. So when we launched the music census sessions last year, the goal was to provide a resource for local music industry professionals to, gain some skills that they really need to. The tagline I like to use is put the business in music business. Most of y'all are creatives and perform music and write music, and it's really challenging when you have to be the creative, but also the accountant and the manager and the marketing person and all of these different things. So I really, I'm really proud of how this program has gone so far. Really excited that we get to continue it into this new year, thanks to the support of the NEA grant funding. Yeah, and if you haven't already been to the Music Census website, it's nolamusiccensus.org/sessions, and we have some archived videos from last year. We have some other resources like music business plans, things like that. There's a street performer guidelines document, sound management best practices for music venues and bars, lots of stuff there. And I'm also happy to chat with anybody anytime. I'll put my email address in the chat. So don't be afraid to reach out. I'd love to grab coffee with y'all, or a happy hour beverage and just kind of just say what's up and check in and see what else we can be doing to support y'all. So, and thank you so much to our amazing speakers for being here. All three of you are just incredible and do, really critical work here. I think that, media and journalism in music is so important for so many reasons. It's one of the best ways that we can, get information about our shows out there, but also kind of tell the story of music in New Orleans and, really craft this narrative of what's going on, what are the challenges and the opportunities that we have, that the city and other, community partners can be addressing. So anyway, I'll stop talking. I'll pass it over to the stars of the show. And yeah, thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Julia. I see my partner Ashley Keaton has gone off camera, so I'm not going to necessarily throw her back on. But a lot of y'all know Ashley and the dynamic work that she does with her pro bono legal program, and is co-founder of this organization. 10 years in at this point as an independent nonprofit. So yay to us. As a little point of privilege, I should mention that our first offices were with Jan Ramsey up at Offbeat at 421 Frenchman Street. When we were a very small nonprofit, she put us up, and we always thank her for that. Ashley, did want to know if you want to say hi to the folks now that you're back on camera.
Hey everyone, sorry I couldn't get my camera back on for whatever reason, but here I am now.
That's
Thank you all for being
okay.
here today.
Always good to see you. Okay,
Mhm.
so let's go ahead and get started with our panel. We have Haley Livaudais, who's with WWL-TV, and I know her through Great Day, Louisiana, but she probably has other things that she works on as well. Uh, Jan Ramsey, Offbeat Magazine and Offbeat Media. and Murf Reeves with WWOZ. I'm going to give you guys a chance to introduce yourselves, but the way that I'd like to do it is this way. I know one of the things that we liked about getting this panel together is that all of y'all, even though you worked in a similar space, it was all a little bit different, and that you potentially have different missions and perhaps different goals when reaching your audience. And I think it's important for our audience to understand that perspective. So, in your introductions, can you also talk about the missions of your companies, your organizations, and how you think that's important for our audience to know when they're looking at reaching out to people? And let's take it in alphabetical order. Haley, let's start with you.
Great. Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can hear
Great.
you.
Okay, perfect. Hi, I'm Haley Livaudais. Like Jean said, I work with Great Day Louisiana for WWL-TV. Great Day, if you're not familiar, is a lifestyle and entertainment show that airs weekdays on Channel 4. And it is information and entertainment, which are two of my favorite things. So we love to feature what is going on in the city, inform our viewers about the wonderful musicians, of course, in part, that we have here. Tell them what you have going on, what they can come see you do, and what you have new. So that's our goal, is to inform and entertain. So that is the goal for Great Day Louisiana and, of course, WWL-TV.
Excellent. Thank you, Haley. Murph, you want to jump in? Or, I'm sorry, Jan, you're next.
Oh, because I'm RA. Okay.
RA, yes.
Yeah, I'm Jan Ramsey. I'm founded OffBeat Magazine, media, offbeat.com almost 40 years ago. So I've been through the, the hoops on musicians and bands and artists and writers pitching us for coverage. And our goal at OffBeat has always been to support, promote, market, and preserve the music of New Orleans and Louisiana. And any way that we can help any musician or band, please be in touch with me. I'm easy to find, Jan Ramsey at offbeat.com, and I'll give you my phone number if you want that as well. 504 782-6104. And you can text me or call me at that number anytime you want. That's it.
That's pretty cool. Thank you, Jan. Murph, come on in.
Hello, everybody. Hope y'all are doing well today. Feeling good. My name is Murf Reeves. I'm a show host and the music director at WWOZ. It's a 90.7 FM on your radio dial, and we also stream. And my mission as the music director is the mission of the station is to preserve and celebrate the music and culture of New Orleans. And I just try to find new and interesting ways to do it and help the artist engage the audience. I'm basically here for all of you. So thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank you. So I figured we'd start with what I think is sort of the more brass tacks of it. And I think this is a question for all of you, but maybe especially for Murph and Jan. One of the things we always hear people ask us is, how do I get my music played on WWZ? How do I get my work reviewed by Offbeat? So how does that happen? What's the best way for people to present work to you if they want it played on the air, if they want to get a CD or a gig reviewed from you guys? What should they do? And either one of y'all can jump in there.
Do you want to go first, Murph?
Sure.
Go ahead.
We're pretty open. I have an email address, murf@wwoz.org. You can just send it there. I do my best to share the information with all of our show hosts. We have 70 volunteer show hosts, and they all are experts in different area of music. And then I just I'm more of a shepherd. I just bring the music in and sort of guide it to where the show host may be. And the show hosts themselves also have, they also have their own relationship with artists. So if I can strengthen that, that's what I do. But you can also, very old fashioned, very basically, you can call the radio station and request a song. If you want to hear your music, you can call up and say, hey, will you play this song? 504-568-1234. I know it almost seems kind of maybe like something you haven't heard of in a long time because we don't really call like that. But yeah, you can just call in and ask.
I think that that's a good thing to say to people because what I've found with musicians and bands over the years is that it's very rare for an artist, a creative person, to feel comfortable promoting themselves, which is basically what you're saying to do, Murph. Okay. And I think if you can develop the skill set to learn how to promote yourself and not feel like a sellout or that you're doing something that it goes against your grain, um, then you'll be a lot further in what you want to achieve, because there's nothing wrong with self-promoting your band, if you want to get attention, because who else is going to do it? I mean, if you have a publicist, and I doubt seriously if that many musicians in New Orleans um, have publicists at this point, or a manager, they can do it for you. But for the most part, creative people, including musicians, don't promote themselves like they should. And when they do, I can tell you from long experience that there are a lot of people who are less talented, in my opinion anyway, but who know how to promote themselves, who will get further than people who are supremely talented who don't promote themselves. So if you think of yourself as a creative and you're in a creative business, then that's a business skill that you really need to learn to promote a career in being creative. And you really kind of have to do that. And there's nothing wrong with promoting yourself. I mean, you really do need to do it in business. So I think the first thing that from my standpoint is you have to, as a creative person, you have to determine what you're trying to achieve. Are you trying to promote a new song? Are you trying to promote an EP or an album or a gig, or are you playing at an event, or your merch or something? I mean, you have to look at your goals and decide what you're trying to achieve before you approach media. And our media is, it used to be print, because we printed every month for 33 years, I think. And when COVID hit, we had to switch to an all digital format because it was too expensive to print. But we tried to keep Offbeat relevant in our weekly beat newsletter that goes out every Thursday. So I think that if you the best thing for you to do is to determine your objectives, and then have yourself ready with a package of information that you can provide to anybody. And maybe in Murph's case, at WWOZ, you might just need to send them a link to your music, or I mean, I don't even know how people do CDs anymore, but or vinyl. They do vinyl, but they need to have that. That's a good thing to get into the right hands, and Murph can help you send it to the right person at the station who is going to be more apt to play your music. Haley, I would imagine that what you do is get people who want to be on the air to promote themselves. So we all kind of have different motivations or ways that people can achieve things. But I can tell you the basic things that you should send. And in my case, I think the best way to send us anything or to get in contact with us, or there are three ways really, but call. It's a good thing to call. Although I get very busy, and we're all busy. Texting is good. Email is good, because in email, you can provide a lot more information than you can by a text. You can send your bio, you can send a link to your music, a link to your social media, but you can't just send that. You can't just say, oh, we need for you to talk about our band. We have to have a reason for us to feature you or talk about you. And I think that I can't emphasize enough that you need to create a personal relationship with the person at the media who's going to be able to help you. So, and I can tell you from, again, from long-term experience, that that's what publicists do. Publicists are very, very aware that they need to develop a relationship with the person in the media who's going to give their client the coverage that they're trying to get. So you as an individual creative have to take that role on. You have to try to make a relationship. Call somebody, chat them up, send them an email. And I can't stress how important it is to have links to everything in what you send, and also to develop an ongoing relationship. And also, and this is something that people in New Orleans just don't do, they don't do enough of: follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. Keep following up. If you don't hear back, don't get your feelings hurt. People are really busy. They're very busy. And sometimes, it falls through the cracks, but you just got to keep following up. And don't be afraid to do that. And don't be afraid to be a pain in the ass, because it's okay. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what you do in business. You have to follow up on everything that you do to make sure that you're getting through. That's, I guess that's all I can say right now. I'm going to give you a little list of things that for a band. I think you should have a bio of the band. You should have, obviously, the band name and the band personnel. I think that's important. Little information on the people in the band, their history, whatever. Link to your music, a website, your Facebook page. I would say a website is crucial these days, and your social media accounts. When your music is coming out, how it's coming out, if it's coming out as an EP, if it's going to be on Spotify or Pandora or Bandcamp or whatever, the genre that you're interested in, because not every media covers the same kind of genres. Okay. So you have to be aware of who our readers, listeners, viewers are, and try to target those people. If you have any reviews that you can include, or accolades, if you have gigs coming up, all that stuff is really important to include, because media is so busy, we need for you to do the work. We don't have time to do all the work, to look up everything. You need to send it to us. And it's real important to be as complete as you possibly can, which makes our job a lot easier, which makes it potentially easier for you to get coverage. So it takes a lot of work to do this, but, organize yourself so that you can, you have this package of information that you can adjust and send to different types of media for coverage. And it's worthwhile to do it, to sit down and do it. And I want to say one thing that I told Gina I was going to talk about, and that's photography. I think it's really, really important for you to have a professional photographs that you have the rights to use, which you have to get from the photographer. Okay. And you really should try to get the rights to the photography from the photographer in writing. You need to do it in writing, because I can tell you now that with AI, there's going to be a lot of problems coming up. I can see it, where people use photographs that are given to them by, or given the rights to by a photographer to use, and they're not using them properly. And with AI is going to catch everything that you do. So let's say, for example, a photographer who works for a media company. Okay, this is and this has happened, so I'm familiar with this scenario. We had one of our photographer took some pictures of a band that we used, and we put them on the cover, and they were also in the online and in print media, whatever. And I don't know, maybe 2 weeks or something like that, we saw one of our photos in the Advocate. Okay. And that's not cool, because first of all, photographer has the rights, and if their work as doing a work for hire for media, this is all legal stuff that Ashley and Jean can tell you about. They don't really, you don't, as a musician, you don't have the rights to use that without permission. And I don't think a lot of musicians understand that, because what had happened is that our photographer, one of the people in the band, said, "Oh, this is a great photo. Can we use it in a press shot?" And the photographer said, "Yeah." Well, the photographer didn't really have the right to do that at the time, because they were doing it for us. And, we're jealous, not jealous, but I mean, we're paying people to take these photos for us, and we have some rights to them. So it's just like if somebody sampled your music, you'd get pissed off, if they used your music without your permission. So you have to understand the same thing with photography and your biography. I mean, everything, it's very, you have to be very careful with it. And now that AI can find anything in 2 seconds, you can get yourself in trouble by doing that. So be real careful about that. And of course, please, copyright your music and do all the legal stuff that you need to do to make sure your rights are covered. But that's an aside, okay? That's just part of the deal. You have to be aware of that. Okay, I'm finished now.
Excellent.
A question.
No, that was good. We got a full list there, and I really appreciate it. And yeah, I've taken a lot of notes myself already. So hopefully my releases will get better soon. One of the things I want to turn to, and Haley, I want to bring you in on this. We've talked about in the beginning, it's news where I have a gig or I have a release. But for people that might have other sorts of news, even if they're in the cultural industries, can we talk about like what you as a producer considers newsworthy, and what sort of arts and culture stories connect with your audience?
Sure thing. So the wonderful thing about Great Day Louisiana is it's on TV on weekdays, so it reaches a large group of people. There are people who are just watching the show, and then we give them a little bit of everything. So you're going to hit some people that maybe aren't necessarily looking for your music, but they're going to find it because they're watching Great Day Louisiana and watch the cooking segment I booked for the first one, and now they're going to get a taste of your music too. So that's the great thing about Great Day, is we are looking for everything. For our purposes, newsworthy things, we do cover events. So if you have gigs or shows coming up, we love to talk about that. We love to talk about new music. If you have a new album, a new EP, a new single, any of that, I would love to hear about it. And like Jan and Murf were saying, like the best way is to get in touch with me. I'll put my email in the chat because that's the best way to get in touch with me. I don't know about it unless you tell me, right? I spend a lot of time as a producer looking for music for our show. Which means that I have a spot for you, right? If you reach out to me, I probably can make it happen. But for the news, timeliness is the most important thing, right? You got to get it to me a little early, because for a show like Great Day or a morning show, you're going to have a little bit of lead time that we book. So you can't tell me the week of that you have a show, it's going to be too late. For us personally at Great Day, we actually tape a week in advance. So timeliness is a big thing. You got to let me know as soon as you know. And there is no such thing as too soon. I keep very organized notes, so I can hold on to things for a long time. As soon as you know that EP is coming out, as soon as you know that show is booked, reach out, send me, like Jan said, as much information as you can. Where is it? When is it? Who are you? Do you have a link to your music? Agree on the website. The more I can look into you, the better. And that's the best way for us to know who you are and get you in front of our viewers, because that's what we want. We really do want to put as many musicians, as many different musicians as we can out there for people to see and experience. That's one of our main goals. So I'm going to put my email in the chat. Like I said, anything other than EPs, shows, gigs, things like that, we're always down to talk about something that is a unique New Orleans or Louisiana twist on your music. So even if you don't have something new, right? Or maybe you're playing somewhere weekly, tell me about it. Tell me about yourself. Tell me about your band. Tell me how you got together. Tell me what inspired you to do music. All of those things are going to be of interest to our viewers. And the more you can tell your story, especially the more you can show me that you can tell your story, the more I'm going to want to put you on TV, because on TV, you are going to tell your story, right? our host Malik is wonderful and he's going to ask great questions, but at the end of the day, you're going to do the talking. You're going to get to explain yourself and show me that you can do that and that you have a story to tell. That's always really helpful too.
That's a really good point. You made two really good points. Telling your story is very, very important because that gives the media the ability to connect your story with their audience, because you know what your audience is like. And you're the one that has to tell the story. And the other point that you made, Haley, that was very, very good and well taken, was timeliness. Because let's say you want to, you're doing a release party or something like that at a club. You don't want to tell us the day before. It takes time to write stuff, to post it, to proof it, to get it together, to get your production people together. It takes time. So you have to be aware of that. And I think what tends to happen now is that people are so used to thinking social media is everything. They can do everything via social media, which is an instantaneous type of thing. That doesn't always help you. Okay. I mean, the best thing is to figure out, what you want the media to do and when, and then work backwards from there. So they'll have enough time to get their presentation or, their coverage together. They don't, and nothing happens instantaneously unless somebody calls Murf up and say, hey, can you play this song? That's a whole different ball game, but when you're trying to get a performance done, or you're trying to get a write-up, or you're trying to get something promoting, like in the Weekly Beat, for example, which we do, you need to get us the information in, several days or a week ahead of time, because we can't do things instantaneously. It's not like you put a graphic up on social media and it's gone. I mean, we need time to do stuff. So you have to think about that as well. So that timeliness aspect is really, really important.
Excellent. And Haley, you talked about telling your story, and I especially want to bring you and Murf in on this conversation because in y'all's medium, in TV and radio, there's a very tight window, and in print maybe a little bit less so. So are there some tips that you can share for our audience about how to get what they need to get out quickly, make sure that it's understandable and concise, and that everybody gets the information they need in what may not be a ton of time? And either one of y'all can start in there. Murf, you go ahead.
Haley.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go ahead. Well, to piggyback off what they were saying earlier with radio, it is a little bit more unique because you can do it in a shorter amount of time. I have had people call up the day of their performance, and it has an impact because how you absorb the media is different. With print and a interview on TV, like you're focused on that thing, but with the radio, sometimes it's just in the background. You're listening to it while you're doing other things. So you might not take in everything, and you're going to take in like highs and lows. So especially here in New Orleans, sometimes there's so much going on, things get lost if they're too far out, especially as a listener trying to figure out what they're going to do for the weekend. So it works both ways for me, having the information in advance, but also calling up and promoting your event like closer to the event, like a day or two before the event, because that's when people are going to be like, okay, Friday's coming up. What am I going to do tonight? And here is an option. And if that's the event you're focusing on, please focus on that event. The who, what, where, when, why, and how. How many times an artist has come in, I was like, well, what time's the event happening? And they don't know. They haven't brought that information. They don't know if it's at 7, if the doors open at 7 or the show starts at 7. And that can be a deal breaker here in New Orleans, because with 4 or 5 things going on, they're like, oh, well, I have 2 choices. I know this one's starting then. I might go that route. And getting to know us is super important. If you can get to make a relationship with me or any of the show hosts, and that can move up and down the totem pole. Sometimes show hosts will recommend an artist to me, or vice versa. I was like, you should talk with this show host because you guys have a really good same outlook on music and how you're looking at things. So I think the conversation will be awesome because I want it to be more than an interview. I want you to reveal a little bit about yourself. Like what is it beyond the music, or why you make the music? And that's my job, is to ask the question and to make you feel comfortable, because it's very different to perform on stage as it is to do an interview in front of a microphone. And I've seen artists who can stand in front of 10,000 people and just talk and this and that. But when they get in front of the microphone with just me, they have butterflies in their stomach. Make sure you understand like what you're doing with what medium you're working with.
Well, I think that's, we talk about offbeat. I mean, we don't do print anymore, really, except for the Jazz Fest Bible. We may do in the future, but right now I'm not planning on doing it. We're really more, we do a weekly newsletter, that's all digital. So, and I think, if you want to get access to that, because we announce all kinds of stuff every week, but we only announce stuff that people tell us about usually. I mean, you can pull some stuff out of the air, but most of the time people have to tell you that it's going on. And you can't tell us the day of. It's not like radio. It doesn't work that way. We need it because we send it out every Thursday morning, but we prepare it, which involves putting pictures in and writing about it and putting links and all this kind of stuff. We need a little time to do that, and we don't need as much time in print. I mean, there's a long deadline for print. But you need to get enough time to put it out there in the media that you want to get it to. Like, for example, with Murf, you can call the day of and say, okay, I have a gig on Friday, whatever, and you're calling on. If you call on a Friday, you're kind of late, in my opinion. But, if you could, can get to them a few days before, that would be better, because maybe they'll mention it on the radio. Maybe a show host will mention it, or another show host will mention it. I mean, there are ways it works. And, and Haley has her deadlines too. Like she said, she shoots a week out. So you have to plan for that. I do want to discuss social media, because
We'll get there. Let me
we'll
bring
get there.
Haley in, and then we'll get
I'll
there.
shut up then.
That's okay. So Haley, when we're talking about when you guys have an interview with Malik, it can be really quick. What are some ways that you'd be like, man, that guest was great. He or she really got that information out. And if everyone was like this, it would be fantastic. What are some tips that you'd want to give people on how to be that fantastic guest?
I think what Murph said is really true. The who, what, when, where, why. This is news, this is journalism. That's what they teach you. Who, what, when, where, why. That's what you got to get to. And you got to get to it fast. I remember once a professor told me that when you are doing news, you need to think of yourself in an elevator. You are in this elevator for this amount of time, and that is it. And you got to start at the top, right? You're going to start with the most important thing, and you're going to work your way down and expand, right? On great day, we generally actually have about 4 minutes, which can feel like a long time if you have nothing to say, and not a lot if you have a lot to say. So just thinking through before you get here what you want to talk about. And we have a guest form that you fill out where you get to put that information in there. So Malik knows what you want to talk about. We know what you don't want to talk about. And putting that information in there ahead of time, doing that prep work ahead of time, that's to me what makes the biggest difference between an interview that falls flat and an interview that really soars and does what you want it to do, which is promote you. So you've got to look at that and think, like, what are my top 3 talking points? What questions do I want Malik asked me? When he does, what are my answers? Just preparing for telling your story, because you're storytellers, you can do it, but it takes a little work on the front end to have that back end really shine.
I see some questions. There's a question: if I don't have a huge following online yet, how can I attract media to want to accept my story release? Well, again, I think the best way to do it is to send us, either call me or send us some information, because I don't have the time to spend all day on Instagram. or, TikTok or whatever. I just don't. I have other stuff I'm doing. So I think that personal contact is great, and having your story kind of put together ahead of time and thinking to yourself, what makes my group, my music outstanding? What is outstanding about it that makes me different or more compelling than anybody else? That's kind of the way you have to think, and devise your pitch like that. And this is something they teach you in school, the elevator pitch. That's what they call it. You have 3 minutes or 2 minutes to explain and get somebody's interest that quickly. So that's kind of the way you have to think. What about me or my music is going to make me appealing? And try to be objective about it. I know that's hard to do, but try to feel like, well, are you going to compare yourself to like a national band or something, like a Taylor Swift or or Beyonce or something? I mean, or what about you, since we're also local, what about you ties you to the local scene, that makes you different or outstanding? And that's just a way to, to compel the media to publish or promote your story or your music, because we want to do something that's interesting to our readers, because that's who we answer to ultimately. Your readers have to be interested, or your listeners or viewers have to be interested in what you're saying, or you're not going to stay on the air, or you're not going to survive. I mean, that you have to think about, because we're thinking about it as a business, in a business way, in a support way. We want to support you, but the guy who, I guess, squeaks the loudest and squeaks in the most compelling way is going to get our attention more so than anybody else. So you have to think about it in those terms, But anyway, I'm talking again.
No, that's good.
I talk too much.
No, no, no. One of the things we've used the word pitching a decent amount, but I want to get this define our terms. There's a difference between pitching one of you guys and putting out a press release, correct? And let's get into that and how, if someone's, we all, I think, well, maybe we don't all understand what a press release is, and we can talk about that, as opposed to then actually saying, hey, I think this is good for you, and just what sort of approaches you think work best, and what people need to know about potentially the subtle but important differences between the two. And Murf, you want to jump in?
Yeah. Sometimes, well, press release is really, for me, when they send a press release, it's about a specific thing. The new album is coming out, the new single is coming out, a video is coming out, a tour is about to happen. And sometimes a pitch is those things, but it's also their vision of what they want their project to be, or I'm releasing these singles and it means this. So I think you need to know like which one you want to focus on with what media. And like with an interview on the air with me, it starts out with the elevator pitch. Like I need the most important thing up front, but that's our jump off point. And to what Jan and Haley said, if you have your information prepared and you really know the things you want to talk about, then when I ask questions, you have these tools to pull from. And those are also what we as interviewers will use to maybe think of a new question. Because what I'm looking for is a little nugget of information that will echo what Jan was saying, will set you apart. Oh, this song was about a very vulnerable part in my life that you may not have been able to say. You didn't say it in your lyrics, and it's not in your press release, but because you felt comfortable with the questions, you revealed something. And it's those little connections that help you get to listeners. Because that's what your music, I believe, that's how listeners find it. They relate to it, whether it's from the beat or from the story, or your whole process. And you never know which part of what you're expressing is going to resonate with the listeners. And yeah, so they're all beneficial. You just need to know which one to use and when to use it.
Press releases, I mean, I'm really glad you said that, Jean, because press releases are very important. And if you don't know how to write one, you have to learn. You have to be able to do something, because there's certain components in a press release that are the same, you know. And again, you said the who, what, when, where, why. That should be in the first paragraph. That is what you're trying to achieve, to let them know about right away. And then the rest of it could be, you know, more about the band and stuff like that. But writing a press release is so important, especially important for us, because it helps us get a grasp on who you are, why you're doing what you do, why you're different, and why we should cover you. So press releases are still important, because if you think that, you know, just posting stuff on Instagram is going to cover all the bases, it isn't. It isn't. Because, like I said, nobody has time to sift through social media all day to kind of come up with ideas of what they're going to cover. It doesn't work that way. So you really have to write it down and send it to people, because I can tell you from, again, a lot of experience, that we can pull a lot of stuff from the press release that you write in the way we cover you, you know. Even if it's in, like, if we do a video, for example. I mean, there are all kinds of, but you have to be able to tell that story in your press release. Who, what, when, where, why, first paragraph, and then, you know, more. And it should not be more than a page. Should not be more than a page, ever. Because our attention spans aren't that long anymore, you know. But that's really important. That's an important business skill to have, marketing skill. Glad you said that, Jean. Really am, because that's important.
And Haley, what about, you know, pitching you is different than potentially pitching other people at WWL-TV. So could you talk a little bit about that and just some of your experiences where you've seen success in that arena, perhaps?
Thank you, Jean. Yes, I am special. Pitching me versus pitching everybody else at WWL-TV is different, because Great Day is just entertainment. It's honestly,
Mhm.
I may be the easiest person to pitch at WWL-TV, because I'm interested in showcasing music as much as we possibly can. Whereas on your other shows, like our morning show, and in other news stations on their morning shows that aren't entertainment focused, they're just not going to have the time that we're going to have
Mhm.
to portray everything that you've got going on. We have time for you to do plenty of music and time for you to talk for a pretty good amount of time. When I do love a press release, because it should have, like Jan said, all of that information in it. But I also like a personal pitch. I really do. For us, you know, we're looking to show as much new and different things as possible. So to me, like a personal pitch, again, it feels more personal. It's for us. It's for Great Day. It maybe feels like, you know what we're looking for a little bit, as far as, you know, your music, the timeliness of it, et cetera. So I do prefer a little personal pitch if I can get one. And then just speaking to like the social media aspect of it, because I know we talked about that for a second. Like Jan said, we're not in our Instagram all day long looking for new music necessarily, because we do have other things going on. And I'm not looking at your follower count at all. If you have good music, you have good music. And if you've sent it to me and I've found it that way, then you get on Great Day. There's no, I'm not looking to find the person with the most followers, right? I'm trying to
Yeah.
find the person with good music and a good story who can give me the information I need to put it out there and make sure we're going to have a good product for people to see, for you and for us.
And that's that personal contact that we were talking about, you know. I mean, it's really important. I'll have people call me and say, you know, hi, this is so and so, and I have a new CD. What's the best thing for me to do? You know, and you know, I'm glad they reached out. And I always tell them, because, and I'm old and I respond to email, but you can get a lot more information in an email than you can from a text. Okay. So I always say, send me an email and then I'll check it out. And then again, I don't tell them to follow. I do that. I do sometimes say, if you don't hear from me, follow up, follow up, follow up. But it's, it's very important to have that personal contact, I think, that upfront personal contact, because when I do get something from you, then I'll remember that you called me, you see, and that means something, you know. It's like you're selling yourself. And in a sales situation, they always tell you in sales, what you have to do is you have to have a touch, you know, you touch your prospect with, and from your standpoint, the media where you're trying to get the coverage is your prospect. So you have to get to them in a respectful but persistent way and make personal contact. That's really, really important. Really important. I mean, a lot of tools that you have to have, but that personal touch is really very important to have. Wouldn't you agree with that? Would y'all agree with that? You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I prefer the one-on-one. I would love if I could do that with everyone. I don't have the time to do it. But like Jen and Haley were saying, like for me, like I get requests and submissions from 70 volunteer show hosts, artists themselves, publicists, labels, marketing. Like my feed is constantly moving.
Yep.
And same with my text. So
Mhm.
I can't keep up with everything, and I do my best, but the ones that stand out are the ones I've usually have developed a relationship with. Even if it's just a hello, I just want to
Exactly.
introduce myself and we shake a hand or have a hug. There's more going on than just the words. You know, we see each other, we, you know, see how we move and walk and talk as well. So it makes a lasting impression.
Human contact.
Yes.
Yeah, it does. It makes a big difference.
Before we dive into Q&A, I know there were some social media points, and Haley referenced it, and Jen, you did a little bit too. I just don't want to leave anything on the table. Were there points that you guys wanted to get out about your relationship with Artist Instagram and maybe the benefits, but also maybe the shortcomings of how that works with you guys trying to get information?
Haley, you
Or did
want to
we
start?
cover it all?
Instagram for me is more work. So I don't like that. So I'm doing a lot of work already. So it's better. Like I said, you probably have a great Instagram. It's probably wonderful. And if you send it to me, a link directly to it, I would love to go look at it and see what you have on there. You know, if you've got some music, if you got some information, that's fabulous. But it's honestly better if all of that information is right there for me in that email that you send. That is the best way to get our attention. If I have to click too many links or do too much digging to find the information you want me to have, that starts to feel very tedious. And now, you know, maybe you're on the back burner because somebody else did give me everything that I needed. So while Instagram is important for your personal brand and growing your music following and all that, for TV purposes for us, it's not where I'm looking to find information. I'm looking to get it from you directly if I can.
I totally agree with that. Totally agree, because, you know, we're busy because we're not just dealing with you, we're dealing with, like you said, you know, publicists and managers and labels and Murf said, I mean, you know, you're constantly getting bombarded with stuff. And so you really can't depend on social media to do that for you. You know, yeah, it builds your brand. Yeah, it might build followers or music bloggers that could pick up on your, you know, on your stuff. But from a media standpoint, the easier you make it for us to be able to pick up on what you're trying to convey and, you know, get it out there, the better off you're going to be. And that takes a little personal work on your part. You know, social media is useful, but it's not the only thing that you have to do. You have to do a lot more. And that, you know, again, that's a business skill that you have to have from a marketing standpoint. Marketing is not just social media. It's a lot of other things. And you have to use all of them to your benefit. You know, they're used for different purposes. You know, I tend to think, and I've seen it over the years happen. You know, we used to get a lot more information on new albums coming out or gigs or whatever. And people tend now not to do that. They tend to put all their eggs in the social media basket, and that's not the right thing to do. It's not. I mean, it's necessary, it's part of the marketing, but it's not everything. So I think both of y'all would agree with that with me there, right? Yeah. And from a media standpoint, if you want to work with the media, you got to, I'll put it this way. This sounds harsh, but if you want to work the media to help you, then you got to help the media. You got to make our job easier so that we can help you. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but there's work involved in it, and it's just part of something you need to do from a marketing standpoint as a creative person.
No, I dig that. And let's open up the Q&A. And this is also the, I guess, time that if anyone has other questions that you want to type in there, go ahead and type them in there. I'm going to go through some of these that I don't think we've addressed yet. One that we have here is, can we get more advice on best practices for following up being squeaky wheel? How much is too much? Anyone who wants to jump in on that. And I know that this is one of those things where personal preferences may vary. So, what do you think? How much is too much?
I'd say every day is too much.
Fair enough.
I mean, you make an initial contact and then you send a text or you send an email. And I think all of us probably prefer emails at this point because you get more insight. Just I'd say every few days until you get a response, and don't be afraid to do that. Don't send the same thing out every time. Send something that says, gee, I'm wondering if we could get in touch because I've been trying to get in touch with you. And when I see that, it's like, oh my God, this fell through the cracks. And I didn't mean for it to happen, but you're so busy handling all these things that's what I mean by a squeak, squeak it, squeak, and the person will eventually say, okay, we also get a lot of stuff from people from or bands from out of town that are not playing here, whatever. And all of us are very hyper local, and I will tend to not respond to pitches that I get from a band or a musician that is not from this area, or maybe is playing Native American chants or something like that, because it's not really our audience is not going to be as much into it as they are other local music. So I go every few days and just send the message differently, or try, if you've sent an email, then text or something. I mean, but that follow-up and persistent follow-up is going to serve you well. It will. Don't feel bad. Just do it.
All right, I see
I agree
heads
with that.
nodding in agreement, but if you guys want to expound, that's great. But if you're just like, yeah, no, I agree with that, then we can take that as agreement.
I agree, and I'll add something is when you do follow up, like Jan says, like say that. Remind us, hey, I sent you about a week ago. I'm just checking in again. I hope I know you're really
Yes.
busy, because we're all at different times. Like during Jazz Fest, like I wasn't answering the same quantity of emails as I am now.
Right.
And people sent back again, and that's what I said. I was like, oh, I wanted to get to that, but I was at Jazz Fest. Thank you for reminding me. And yes, and I've set up a couple interviews because they reached out. It was like 2 or 3 weeks later. Hey, just want to make sure, or did you get this? Did you miss it? Did you get my text? Because for me personally, a text is a great intro, but the text feed moves way faster than the email feed for me. So I was like, that's usually what I'll say. Send me an email with all of your information, and then we'll work on setting up an interview or performance, whatever you're looking to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I would say look at that email that you sent the first time again. If I get an email that's too vague, that doesn't have enough information in it, like we said, that's going to make me work a little too hard. Maybe that's why you haven't heard back from me, because now I got to work a little harder to get back to you. So it's going to take me longer. So before you resend, hey, just checking in, reread that email. Make sure it has the who, what, when, where, and why that we're looking for. Make sure you put all of your information in there. And if you didn't do it the second time, it's not too late. This is an email. So that may be the reason you haven't heard back, is because there's just not enough there for me to take the time to be like, yeah, let's do this thing. So that's another good thing to think about when you respond is, did I put everything in there the first time?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Murph, we have just sort of a procedural question. It says, when requesting a song from WWOZ, do you need a physical copy on hand, or will you play a song available on streaming?
I do not need a physical copy. I will play a digital version, but not from a streaming platform. Like, we're not going to play a link from Spotify or Tidal. But if you have a single, and you can send me a downloadable version of it through Dropbox or WeTransfer, I'll play the single, because that's how I see the artists doing things now. Is they're putting out singles and then coagulating them for an album. So I'm going to do the best I can. Now, that being said, it's the same amount of work to do one single as is an album. So you also run the risk of like trying to hit me up every month for another single. I might just not have space because I have to make space for other artists with their singles. But the singles are good, and that's how you keep relevant, and it keeps us relevant too, because we're putting out the new music as we get it, instead of you holding on to those 8 songs and waiting a year to put them out, because you're working in your digital world where you have to bump up above everybody else who's trying to be seen or heard.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that you made, Murph, because, I mean, from years ago, we would be dealing with albums, and then it was EPs, and now it's, singles. And the strategy a lot of time is to start putting out singles in advance of doing, an album. For a review standpoint, and no, we haven't really talked about reviews here from what, because y'all don't do that, and that's not what y'all do, but that's what we have done for years. And reviews, I mean, I'd almost like to, ask the attendees what they feel about, how important is a review, because people can hear stuff now, on a streaming platform that they choose. They can hear the music for themselves and make a decision. The thinking in the past was that you were sending out your music to media that could listen to it and review it and give a potential listener some idea of what the music was like from an educated standpoint, from a person, a critic who, and I shouldn't say critic, that's not a good word, reviewer, I guess, who was knowledgeable about music, and in my brain, and again, because I'm old, I think that does still has some credibility, to pass it through a person who has listened to a bunch of different music, who can compare it to, say, something that came out, or a style of music that is new versus something that came out 5, 10, 20, 50 years ago, whatever, I mean, having the ability to have a person who's reviewing be able to compare it to other music that has been around for a while, I think is relevant, but I could be wrong. I mean, I'd have to get some information from the audience on that, but because reviews are just like a thing of the past. It's almost like they don't exist anymore, because now it's almost like, well, why is this person saying anything about my music? What do they know? Well, actually, critics do know some things. Reviewers do. They should know some things, or they shouldn't be reviewing music at all. You can't pick somebody who doesn't know anything about music at all, or different kinds of music. It helps to get those connections that that make the music more, I guess, relevant and long-standing. I don't know, but that, again, that's me, speaking as a person, who's been around for a long time. I don't know about reviews. Are they still relevant?
I personally find them still relevant, and
Yeah, that's because you're old too, Gene.
It's true. It's true. There's no question about it. But I hope it's something that continues. And I mean, you guys at Offbeat have done an amazing job of that over the years and continue to introduce me to stuff. Because as we said, we're busy. And I mean, all of y'all, WWL, WWOZ. I mean, that's how we learn about new music.
Yeah, well, media's
Yeah.
always busy, you know, because we're doing a bunch of different things at one time, you
You
know.
are, and you're busy right now, but you still had time to join us today, and I really appreciate that. So I think this is a good point to leave it at this. So thank you so much to Haley, to Murph, to Jan. Y'all have been incredibly generous with your time and putting out your contact information, and I know from personal experience about sharing the good word about the culture in Louisiana. So from all of us at the project, thank you guys so much. I know I speak for Julia and the
Oops.
Office of Nighttime Economy as well. Y'all are fantastic, and really appreciate y'all joining us.
Well, I'm more than thrilled to be able to do this because, you know, our job, as I see it, just like Murph's job and Haley's job, we're here to help support and promote local creative people. That's why we exist. Our specialized media, and we do have what you do in your show and what you know OZ does and Offbeat does. We're very specialized in you know in what we are geared to, which is not the case in a lot of cities actually. So in some ways, I guess people in Louisiana and New Orleans are lucky that way. You know, I just hope we can continue doing what we do.
And Jen, real quick, someone did, and I know you gave it out at the very beginning, but some folks might have missed it. Could you share your email address with people?
Yeah, Jan Ramsey, all one word, JANRAMSEY at offbeat.com.
Couldn't be easier.
I'm easy. It's
Yes,
easy to
indeed.
find me.
All right, gang. Thank you all again for joining us. This has been fantastic. I really appreciate it. Everyone enjoy the rest of your day and catch us at our next one. See y'all later.
Thank you, Gene, for hosting
My
us.
pleasure. Thank you very much. Nice meeting Haley. I
Thank
don't
you.
think we've met before.